Hey guys, quick video. I'm not going to do a step-by-step here as far as, videoing me doing all this. Again, I only have two hands. I can only do so much. But I'm doing a 5/6 drop on this truck, and that's going to consist of a, tore my glove there. That's going to consist of a drop spindle and a drop spring. Now you can buy this, you can buy these kits. That's typically what I do. Or you can buy a 3-inch spindle, a 2-inch spring, vice versa, 3-inch spring, 2-inch spindle. That's typically what you do. This is a 3-inch spring, 2-inch spindle. But anyways, again, relatively simple. If you have a few simple hand tools, these are the caliper bolts. I done took those out and I thought, well, let me do a quick video. Typically I'll take the caliper off first. I'll run it up here and either zippy tie it up here out of my way or just kind of lay it out of my way. Just remember that this hose has to come in behind all this and come up here. So if you take all this loose and you lay this caliper over here, which is typically what everybody wants to do, there's more room over here. Just, the hose is not restricting you over here. But anyways, when you put it all back together, if this is not ran through here, you cannot pull the caliper through this hole or between the spring and the back of the spindle. So just kind of keep it over here out of your way, or you're going to be taking the spindle back off or taking this brake hose loose, which is going to have brake fluid everywhere. It's kind of aggravating. But and again, I'm going to be replacing these hoses and stuff. But anyway, just remember that before you put the spindle on, make sure your caliper's back on either side. So anyways, I'll take the caliper off, go ahead and take the shock off, and then I will take the tie rod end off. You got a nut, and sometimes these will be a castle nut, sometimes they won't. These are castle nuts. You'll have the pin. Pull your pin out, take your nut loose, grab you a pretty good sized hammer, and just hit it right here on the side. Now be careful, don't hit your threads. Sometimes you'll kind of slip and hit your thread, and that's going to ruin that tie rod. But again, I'm replacing these. But again, if you've already got a new tie rod or a good one, you don't want to replace it, be careful not to hit those threads. So anyways, you've got your caliper off, your shock, your tie rod in, all that stuff's out of the way. Go ahead and pop your dust cap off here, take your wheel bearing nut loose, slide your rotor assembly out, lay it to the side. I always stick my nut and my pin and stuff back in here and put the cap back on the rotor. That way it's laying in the floor. It's not going to be collecting dirt and debris, because I always change the ball joints. And these ball joints, they've never been changed, they're riveted in. So you've got to either cut these rivets off or grind them down. I typically grind them off and knock that loose. Now some of these ball joints will come right out. Some of them you'll be out here beating and banging and cussing a lot. So anyway, get your let me get back to where I was at here. I got kind of off subject there. You get your tie rod in loose. Again, you're going to have a castle nut top and bottom. I want to say one's a 7/8 or a 13/16. The other one's 15/16 on the bottom, I think. So anyway, break those loose. Don't take the nuts all the way off. Just loosen them, top and bottom, and then start it back on there 3 or 4 threads. And again, get your hammer. Do not hit this. Try to keep it on the spindle, because again, this spindle's coming off. We're not using it anymore. And I've got a yard full of these things. I think the last ones I gave several of these to a guy named Waylon. He kind of collects parts. But again, you're not going to hurt it, but just hit it on the side, hit it on the bottom, and that will break both of them loose. Make sure you have a jack under here. Run your jack up, get your nut off, and then let your pressure off. And it's going to come off the top, and you just pull it up off that bottom one, and then reach in there, jerk your spring out. If you're doing the bottom ball joint, again, this is all you need. Take this, put the jack under the A-arm, that way you're hitting something solid, and hit that ball joint. It'll come right out, knock it out of the bottom. Of course, you'll have to have a ball joint press, which is basically this thing here, and just a few little old cups. This cup will go on the top, and then this one I run it up on the bottom and press that in. Now Again, if you're not doing the ball joints, just ignore all that. Replace your spring. Just remember, this is the top and this is the bottom. You'll see this, where this coil ends, there's a groove for that in this lower A-arm. Make sure that goes in that groove, and make sure as you're jacking it up, you can kind of stick your hand up in there and feel and make sure this is going into that groove as well. If it don't, eventually it will probably fall in there the more you drive the truck, but it's liable to set lopsided or anything. Once you get your spring in, put your spindle on. Again, relatively straightforward. Set it on your bottom ball joint, start your nut. Make sure your boot's on there for your bottom ball joint. As I just did on the other side, I forgot to put it on, so I had to take it all back loose and put that boot on the bottom. So, you know, check yourself as you're going. Oh, and one more thing. Make sure when you pull this rotor off, you take this dust cover off. It's 3 half-inch bolts. You got 3 of them, and it'll bolt right back to this new spindle. So anyway, put your spindle back on. Again, start the bottom nut. You ain't got to tighten it. Get it up into your top ball joint. Just kind of use the jack. Let it do the work. Push it up into the top ball joint. Get your nuts on. Tighten them up, and then just start putting it back together. Again, you'll pretty well start with your rotor assembly. Get it on there. Get it tight, or you can put your tie rod on, whichever one. Again, don't forget that dust cover. I have forgot it several times and getting everything back together and look, and there lays that dust cover. And it really irritates me when I do something so silly, especially when I know better. But again, just I know this probably ain't a lot of help to a lot of people, but again, it's relatively simple. Like I said, caliper, shock, tie rod, hit it with a hammer, get all that out of your way. Pull your rotor assembly off, your dust cover, twist it around, pull your pins out of your nuts, break those loose. Again, don't take them all the way off. Hit the sides. That way you're not in here with one of those pickle forks or whatever. Those are aggravating. If you just hit the side of the spindle here, hit the side of it where there's a little solid part here. You might have to hit it 3 or 4 times, but eventually that will break loose. Go to your next one, it's broke loose. Raise it up the jack, take your nuts off, and let your pressure off easily. And that's all there is to it. I will try to do a little video on the back as to how I do that. Again, I'm typically doing all this by myself. If you've got a helper, there's easier ways to do it, but I'm usually out here by myself doing this. So anyways, there's the front, and I will again try to do the rear. I don't know if I'll get around to it today or not, but I will try to do a video on it and post it later. Y'all have a good one, and I'll catch you on the next one.